I'll just have to see my face on Facebook.
Do you have a waiting room?
Yeah, just a minute. We're trying to bring in YouTube.
Gotcha.
Are you there, Sharon?
There he is.
All right. We're getting there.
Hey, Nancy,
Hi,
now
Dave.
Hey, Nancy.
No.
we can't hear Nancy.
Can you hear
I
me?
can hear Nancy. She just said hi, Dave.
Ah. It's working.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was painful.
We got
Yeah, like-
Mary's head.
What we
Jim's
did
head.
wrong.
Paul.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay.
Do we have John and Donna?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, can you?
Donna, where's your picture?
I can see you.
We can't see you. You called in.
Yeah, and I'm in Zoom.
You're just a phone signal.
We don't see you.
Okay, well, I think we're gonna have to keep going because we can't give
Is-
everybody their 15 minutes back.
So who do we got on? Do we have everybody?
Well, is John on?
No.
I think we have to get started, folks.
Mark,
Well, I know John was on. I mean, I was talking to John by email. He was shut down with the computer, so I know he's in his office trying to get on here. But
So,
yeah.
Mary, we can hear. We can't.
well,
Mary can't
that's
hear us.
on Mary. I have no microphone for her. Her audio is not on.
Yeah, that's Mary. Mary's audio is not on.
Right.
Have her call.
Sharon,
Yeah.
try and call Mary.
Raise your audio or something.
Yeah, let's see if we can get. I'll text her.
Sharon's going to try and call her.
Okay. We did this last month and it
I
was
know,
perfect.
it was flawless.
Well, the problem this time is we turned off my computer audio so we could hear it on the TV, and it's got to be the way around.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So that we learned.
Well, folks, just another minute. We'll wait and try to get John on. And I know, Donna, can you text him and see if he's trying to get on?
sure, I can send him an email.
Okay.
And so I'll just tell him. Okay, I'll tell him to try again.
Oh, he's here. Let him in.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Okay. All right, so we need Mary to be able to speak. That's the next problem.
Sharon's going to try and call her
Okay,
because that's on her end.
right. So we can probably get started at first if Mary can hear us.
I don't think she can hear us.
Okay. Hi,
Now,
Mark.
see, there's no microphone that comes up by her name.
I just lost you guys somehow.
We can still hear you.
I know. I can't see you. Let me go back in.
Who's going back in?
I can't see anybody.
Oh, my gosh.
And it's funny because I can see everybody. You can't see me. I can see Joan and Dave and Nancy.
Yeah, we
Hey,
just,
I know, but I can't see you. I'm just starting
Yeah.
over.
Donna, is your camera on? Because,
Yeah. Yeah, everything's the same as it was before.
no, you just come up as a phone symbol.
I don't know why. I mean, I haven't touched anything with my machine. And I do Zoom meetings all the time.
Well,
Have you covered the,
No. Like I can see a picture of me when I first get into Zoom. I see me, and the camera's on. I don't know why. I have no idea why it's not working. I even have my badge on. I was going to show Mary. Even wore my name tag. I don't know why.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
I forgot my name tag. We'll do that next time.
Take it fresh out of its package.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I did.
I
But no,
love
I
it.
don't know why. I'm not, mine isn't working.
There we go. Of course, no one can read it on the sign, but we got it.
Right. Okay, so our
Mary.
problems are no John and no Mary.
No,
No,
John's here.
John's here.
But John, can you see?
There's
him?
Mary. Mary's connecting to audio.
Oh, there's John.
There she
Okay.
is.
I can hear you.
Good.
All right, great. All right, well, everyone, thank you so much for your patience. This is not
Yes.
ideal, but
No.
hopefully we're learning and each time it'll get smoother. So I'd like to call the May 20th, 2020 Franklin Township Board of Supervisors meeting to order at 7:17 PM. In attendance via Zoom are supervisors McVeigh, Auerbach, D, and Gerstenhager. Also in attendance is Solicitor Mark Thompson, Township Manager Joan McVaugh, Assistant Township Manager Jeff Eastburn, Secretary Sharon Norris, and I think Paul Lagasse, right?
Yeah, he was here. Here.
This meeting has a number of members of the public attending via Zoom. Joan, I'll let you count those, or Sharon, and you can update that.
Okay.
Okay, just a reminder to the supervisors today to raise your hands when voting, yes or no. If you have a name tag, great. Otherwise, like me, I have forgotten. Just, I think we'll get a feel for. I think my name comes up when I'm talking. I'm not sure. Okay, public comment for tonight's agenda will be taken after each agenda item. It is important to state your name clearly so that your comments can be reflected accurately. If you are using YouTube or Facebook, you must type in your name and address before your comment will be recognized. If you are using Zoom, please raise your hand and you will be recognized. Okay, with that, I will have John start the motions. You there, John?
I can't hear him.
I think I got it.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve the April 15th version 2 meeting minutes as presented by the township secretary.
I'll second that, John.
Well, I'd just like to make a comment that I prefer that we not change the meeting minutes on the day of the meeting. It just doesn't give you time to review what was changed. Not a big deal, but from now on, let's not do that.
Okay.
I was out all day. I didn't have time to review the changes.
John, do you want to vote?
Donna, did you second that?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Go on, John.
Any further discussion?
No.
Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries 5-0.
Okay.
Donna?
I'll go next. I make a motion that the Board of Supervisors adopt Resolution 2020-12 regarding the disposition of records for the Board of Supervisors meeting of April 15th, 2020. Can I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Dave?
Yes.
Any discussion? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, carries 5-0. Thank you.
Okay. I make a motion that the board approve the March treasurer's report, which includes the following disbursements. The general fund with disbursements and transfers of $193,642.52. The Park and Recreation Fund with disbursements of $4,034.46. The Open Space Fund with disbursements of $6,330.74. The Fire Hydrant Fund with disbursements of $580.80, leaving a balance in all funds totaling $825,830.99. Seconded by?
I'll
I'll
second.
second it.
Okay, seconded by Mary.
Yep.
Any discussion?
No, I just want people to note that that was for March. I mean, I think you said it, just so that's March and we still have April too.
Yes,
April's
that's right.
next.
Yeah.
Anna, there's the proposed motions in your handbook, in case you didn't have that.
No, I just want everybody, people in the line to know this is for March.
Right.
That's all.
So that,
Okay.
all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries 5-0.
I make a motion that the board approve the April treasurer's report, which includes the following disbursements. The general fund with disbursements and transfers of $340,795.03. The park and recreation fund with disbursements of $3,546.48. The open space fund with disbursements of $6,330.74. The emergency services fund with disbursements of $40,961.33. And the fire hydrant fund with disbursements of $580.80, leaving a balance in all funds totaling $1,221,497.16. Seconded by.
I'll second that.
Okay, seconded by Dave. Discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Motion carries 5-0.
Okay. All right, we have a zoning officer's report for March and April are combined here. We have 15 permits issued, 15 building inspections. Building fees collected were $5,266.03. Recreation, open space, impact fees collected, 0. Miscellaneous fees collected, $3,500. And there was one ongoing zoning issue reported. I guess I'd go right on with the audit. No motion offered. Any discussion on that?
John, did you want to have discussion on that?
No?
Okay. So we're moving on to the business section. Paul, do you want to give a HARB update since we don't have it technically in the on the list of agenda items?
Yeah, I would just like to give a quick update on 2 items. There has been an ongoing item, as you may recall, that in conjunction with the Chester County Planning Commission, we are preparing a map of the historic resources of Franklin Township. That came in for review in April. The township printed up a large map so that we could compare that to the previous map that we received and check on the corrections. I corralled my wife into helping me with that since I'm not working directly with any historical commission members. We found a few corrections that need to be made and they've been sent back, and we will be getting the map back for a 3rd review, but I'm hoping that things will be fine with that. Also, we did co-sponsor a talk in March, just as everything was beginning to fall apart. I was not there, but it was The Lady Was a Spy by Dr. Linda DeRoche of Wesley College. It was well attended. And finally, I'd like to note that in case you missed it, we quietly canceled our May talk on the Johnson Gang with Bruce Maude, and that's been postponed for the time being to September, assuming we can hold it then. And that's it.
We'll look forward to that.
Yeah.
John, you want to keep us going?
Wait, Nancy, we have the audit to discuss. There's no motion. And we have Pam Baker from Barbicane Thornton and Company here to discuss the audit.
Okay. Okay, let's go with that.
You ready? Good
Yes,
afternoon, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Great job getting your meetings online. Now it's a challenge for everyone these days. So we appreciate the opportunity to finally have a chance to come and present the audit to you. It has been done for quite some time, but with everything going on and schedules changing and and having to go to an online format, it's taken a couple of months for us to be able to meet with you. So with me this evening is Tim Sawyer. Tim is the partner who has been on your engagement. He's been the engagement partner for the past 3 years. As you know, we have been your auditors for longer than that, but we have rotated over the course of our relationship with Franklin Township. So Tim is going to give you an overview of the results of the audit, you know, what the audit process looked like, and then we're willing to take and ready to take any questions that you may have. So Tim, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Pam. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
All right, so with the audit, as Pam mentioned, we finished the audit. We're on site, I would say end of January, and we finished the audit. The audit report is actually dated February 18th, so it's been done for a while. And it was issued in March and submitted to the DCD as well. So your online submission was taken care of. With the audit report, if you're looking at it, you'll notice that there is a adverse opinion in relation to the DCD as far as it contains to GAAP or generally accepted accounting principles. And that's because it's in a prescribed format. So that with the DCD, that form that they put out, that's the grid-like in the report, is a prescribed form. So it doesn't conform to GAAP because GAAP would be a regular set of financial statements with footnotes, etc. So we do have to, by our regulations, issue an adverse opinion. However, we also issued an opinion related to the prescribed form. And with that, we issued an unmodified or clean audit opinion. So as far as your audit goes, you did get a clean audit opinion on the audit. When we go about conducting the audit, there's certain things that management's responsible for. And basically, management's responsible for the fair presentation of the DCD report and for designing, implementing, and maintaining the internal control relevant to preparing that report and making sure that it's free of material misstatement, whether due to fraud or other errors. As the auditor, we are responsible to express an opinion on the DCD based on our audit and our procedures. We do that in performance with auditing standards generally accepted in the United States of America. And those standards require that we plan and perform the audit to obtain reasonable assurance on whether the DCD is free from material misstatement. And what that means is we go through and select our procedures. You know, a lot of it comes down to our judgment and how we assess risk as part of the audit. In assessing risk, what we do is we do interviews with board members. We had a couple of you come in during the audit process and talk to you and ask you, if you had any concerns. We interview the staff, find out, are the procedures that they are doing consistent with the procedures that are supposed to be being followed. And we consider that as we're looking at the recording of transactions, which of course build the base for the reporting of the DCD numbers. When we go through the internal controls, we basically look at, there's 3 major cycles that we look at. We look at your cash receipts, cash disbursements, and payroll transactions. And based on our testing, we found that your controls are designed and functioning properly. When we look at some of the other account balances and do the testing to issue our opinion on the numbers, a couple of the things we do, I'll break it down into 4 major areas. Of course, you have your cash, because you issue the report on a cash basis. So we confirm the accounts with the financial institutions. We review the bank reconciliations, look for any, really old outstanding items or any weird reconciling items we happen to notice, if there are any, and we'll investigate those. For revenue, a lot of the revenue we can confirm with third parties. So that's pretty easy as far as the audit process goes. We also look at, because Keystone does collections for you, we look at what's referred to as their SOC 1 report, which is a service organizations control report, to make sure that their controls are operating the way they're supposed to, as far as them collecting and then remitting to you. We also look at some analytical procedures, comparing balances and doing some other ratio analysis. On the expenditure side, again, we'll do analytical procedures. We'll also review various invoices related to, and when we do the invoices, we'll also look at the controls to make sure that they're, that's how we determine that they're operating effectively. And for payroll, we also do the same thing with analytics and looking at the payroll processing, making sure that those controls are being followed. And we'll also kind of take a reconciliation look. We'll look at your W-3, which is the total of all your W-2s, and compare that total with the amounts in the general ledger to kind of make sure that everything is recorded in the proper accounts. So we kind of do all of that, and that allows us to issue that unmodified or clean opinion when it comes to saying that your financial statements are fairly presented for the year. So I'll give you a brief overview of some of the financial summary results. So for the year ended December 31st, 2019, you had $860,000 in cash at the end of the year, compared to $1,060,000 the year before. Your total revenues for the year were $2,206,000 compared to $2,293,000 the year before. And on the expenditure side, your expenditures were $2,406,000 compared to $2,322,000 the year before. Now, with the revenue and expenditure numbers, I did not include what are called other financing sources and other financing uses, which are transfers between the two funds. This year, you had $351,000 that moved between the two funds. So if you're looking at the DCD report and you're looking at total expenditures, you'll see a number of $2,557,000. That'll include the $351,000. And on expenditures, it's $2,757,000, which also includes the transfer. It's just moving money between the different funds, and it's basically you move money in the capital project for the year. So overall, for the year, this year, you had about a $200,000 deficiency in your revenues, meaning your expenditures were higher by that amount for the year, and that was compared to $29,000 the year before. So a little worse, but not too bad overall with everything.
Tim, was that all funds?
That's all funds, by the way.
That's all
yes, it's all
funds, right?
funds.
So if you spend down capital or something like that that's planned, that are one-time expenditures, that would be expected, right?
Anybody have any questions as far as the procedures or the report?
Well, I think I just want to comment that I think it's important, auditing doesn't always sound that exciting, but I think we've seen in other communities this past year what an impact it can have. And so I took the time to meet with you and I know other supervisors did as well. It is our obligation as supervisors to understand what kinds of checks and balances we have and if they're appropriate. So, I know I asked you this privately, but I'll ask it publicly. Is there anything you think we should be doing that we're not, that would jeopardize the funds of our community, really?
Right now, I would say your controls are actually very good. You do a little bit more than some of the other clients that we have. So we kind of recommend to them implementing some of the things that you do. One of the things that we find is really good that you do is, on a weekly basis, somebody is coming in and reviewing all the disbursements before they go out. So you're taking a very good hands-on approach of watching the money of the township and, making sure that everything is the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, we actually have 2 supervisors come in to sign checks in addition to Joan. So we have 3 people signing checks each week. Yeah.
Yeah, every community is different, and the smaller the community, the more difficult it is to do 2 things. One, to have skill sets in your office that really understands accounting and bookkeeping. So Franklin is very fortunate because you do have someone that does have the skill sets to really handle the finances of the township. And then the second thing is, people run for elected office with a lot of different skill sets themselves and a lot of different reasons that they come forward. But, they don't always do that and want to have to come in every day or every other day or once a week or be that involved. But unfortunately, when you have a really small organization and you don't have the opportunity to hire a lot of people to get segregation of duties, that is one of the responsibilities that can fall to the elected supervisors. And, Franklin has always been, I know I was the engagement partner before Tim was, and always been attentive to that. And the board has always been involved, and that makes such a world of difference. So that gets you a clean audit, right? Congratulations on that.
Okay, does anyone have any questions for Pam and Tim or anything else that you'd like to cover before we move on?
Yeah, this is John Auerbach. Pam, on January 29th, I sent you a memo indicating that there are a number of frauds that went on in our area. And I asked you to look into some of our banking procedures because most of these frauds were perpetrated by using unknown accounts within the bank and transferring money from legitimate municipal accounts into fraudulent accounts. And I was asking you to put that in your area of interest. I did read your recommendation letter, and it appears that you responded to that with a number of points that we should consider doing. Is that recommendation in response to my memo?
Tim, was there a lot of recommendations?
Yes, I'm gonna pull it up right now,
Okay,
but
pull it up, yeah.
yeah,
Sorry, I
we
don't have
did
it.
take that into consideration. And in addition to, when we do our cash confirmations, a lot of times what we do is well, we'll do them electronically, but you can put a comment in there, and we'll always list out the accounts of the township, and we will ask the bank and say, you know, are there any others in the township's name that are not on this list? And they'll respond back, you know, if there are, they send us the numbers, and if there are, they'll say there are no other ones.
Well, the reason I made that point is that a number of the feds use that particular technique to use municipal funds fraudulently.
Right, so, yeah, so to Tim's point, I mean, we do send third-party confirmations. We also look at, he mentioned the transfers. We also look at any transfers that go between accounts to identify anything that's not a revenue or not an expenditure to see, did it go where it was supposed to go? So that was a thing that we had done. And we also, as Tim mentioned, look at the bank reconciliations, because if anything is moving in or out that's not going through your accounts, that would be the other thing you would see, items on the unidentified items on the bank reconciliation. So we did look at that as well.
Just looking at your recommendation letter, there's a 5-step that you recommended that we engage as an additional control. Did all the supervisors read it and understand what they're asking for?
I did. I think we just have to figure out how to operationalize it.
That's where I am. I think we need to do that.
I do as well. And Jill and I talked about one of us coming in once in a while to go through all of the information, but it's very difficult. I'm not sure how to make this work.
It says that it's recommended that you do it monthly.
Yeah.
It's 5 steps, not minor steps. There's a significant amount of work associated with those steps.
Well, and especially right now with COVID, I certainly don't want to stand over Joan's shoulder.
Yeah, and so those recommendations are, you know, to your point, John, you had asked us very specifically, and so we wanted to give you that feedback, but we certainly aren't saying that you have a deficiency in your controls. Those are just, if you want to take one more extra step, you have a lot of things in place, and they are functioning, and we're confident they're functioning. And as I mentioned before, I think you have the right skill sets in your office, and I also think you have the competency. And there are effective checks and balances, but you know, you had specifically asked us if there's anything we can add. Tell us what we can add. So I wouldn't want you to feel that with everything, with every process and every internal control design, you really do have to weigh the cost and benefit of it as well, right? And so it may be something that you think about, you know, going forward, and maybe you find a way, you know, to implement some of that. Or if you wanted to have a further conversation, you know, Tim could certainly, and/or the staff that that worked on your job, because they are there. You know, we have 2 people on site actually going through the audit, and we rotate those people. So one of the reasons we rotate them from year to year is because they go to 3 other townships and they see the way they do it, and then they come to your township. And so it's always nice to kind of have that perspective. And I think between your questions, John, and some of the things you really want us to look at and the perspective, that's where you got those recommendations.
Well, what prompted this is this one recent local fraud was enormous. And it's really put a lot of scrutiny on the townships, all the townships' financial
Sure.
procedures. So that's my response to it. So I think we need to discuss this at some other time, probably not in this meeting, whether we want to implement these steps and how we would do it.
Yeah, I've certainly talked to Joan about it. I think we need to talk about it further. It is not an easy thing to do. So we're going to have to figure out how to make that happen without it requiring 3 or 4 days of an individual's time each month, which most of us can't afford to give.
So would there be an instance outside of obvious malfeasance? Would there be an instance where you would say, hey, this is a township that could actually use these extra protocols? Would there be something that, other than just someone, stealing money?
Right. So again, I guess I would go back to pointing out the skill sets that are within management, right? The skill sets that any municipality has really go a long way to determining how strong your controls are. All right.
Okay.
So that's really big. Having a check and balance, of course, is big as well. When we conduct an audit, one of the things that we do is assess the integrity of management. And that's one of the things we do when we talk to elected officials, when we look at the way business is conducted. You could have the worst controls in your environment. You could have, let's say you had no controls, right? If you had no controls and no checks and balances, that doesn't mean you would have fraud, because you have to have more than that. So let's say you have no controls. Well, if you have no controls, you also have to have someone that sees, here's an opportunity, and generally that comes about because they have some need, some pressure, something that's spawning them to say, well, here's an opportunity. But then even if you get that far, you're still not going to have fraud unless they can also rationalize their behavior. So there's 3 legs. We always call it the fraud triangle. There are 3 legs that have to shake, in order for it to really result in someone stealing. Okay. So just because designing internal controls is the first line of defense. Okay. But just remember, you have to have the other 2 pieces as well. So when you're assessing what works best for you, and when you get to that cost benefit of putting those procedures in place, factor that in, because I think it does make a difference as you're making decisions. If that helps.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for the explanation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Enjoy the rest of your
Thank
evening.
you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, we're back to, I think, John, you're next. If you want to make a
I make a motion that the Board of Supervisors enact ordinance 2020-02, creating a Park, Recreation, and Open Space Board.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Motion carries 5-0.
All right.
Okay. Shall I go next, Nancy?
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks, Donna.
Okay. I want to make a motion that the Board of Supervisors appoints the following residents to a 5-year term on the Park, Recreation, Open Space Board with the following initial terms. So can I read that again? Because I don't think you want to say 5-year term, right? They're all different terms, right, Joe?
They are for the first year, but after that, it's a 5-year term. I mean, after these first expirations.
So can I just read the motion instead of saying, can I just say point with the following initial terms and just leave it at that? And then
Yes.
read out the terms? Okay, so let me just do it one more time. So I make a motion that the Board of Supervisors appoints the following residents to the following initial terms on the Park, Recreation, and Open Space Board. And that's as follows. A 5-year term for Paul Overton, a 5-year term for Mary Hanley, a 4-year term for Greg Sachs, a 3-year term for Jim Germain, a 3-year term for Jennifer Palm, a 2-year term for Kyle Bianco, and a 2-year term for Ellie Petrowski. Can I have a second, please?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Dave. Any discussion?
Well, I just want to say how appreciative I am of the residents' interest and time in helping to create this inaugural committee and this board. I think there's a lot of good we can all do, and I'm just thrilled that you're all interested, and I know a number of you are on the call, and thank you so much.
Okay.
So, any other discussion? I'm sure the rest of the board feels the same way, that we're thrilled to have these folks volunteer. It's something that's important to all of us, that especially now with COVID, we got to be able to get outside and get in our parks and be able to walk around and enjoy some fresh air. So this is good work for you guys to take on. I'll take a vote on that. So all in favor, say aye.
Bye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 5-0. Thank you. And so, Joan, will these folks when will they get together, or is there some directions that they'll get in the mail?
Right, we'll have to determine the first meeting date, something that will be convenient for everybody. And then after that, we can set a monthly schedule.
Great.
Dave?
I make a motion that the Board of Supervisors, based on the recommendation of the Township Engineer, approve escrow release number 3 for the Avon Grove Charter School, leaving a balance of $0 in their escrow account. Can I have a second?
Second that, Dave.
Okay, thank you, Donna. Discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, next motion. Make a motion that the Board of Supervisors award the Hess Mill Bridge Replacement Project to COVID engineering, excuse me a second here. Got COVID on my mind here. Term here. Contact Engineering Solutions. The lowest
second that.
qualified bidder.
I'm sorry. I second that.
So, go ahead.
It was seconded, so it's open for discussion.
I did.
Why are we, what does it mean that we're awarding them this bid? Does this jeopardize the funding that we're seeking from the state?
No, it doesn't, does not jeopardize any funding we're waiting for from the Conservation District.
Is
We
there a reason
We
to?
haven't expended any money.
Pardon me?
We haven't expended any money. We've only awarded a contract.
Okay, and is there a reason to award it now?
Yes, because we're expecting the approval from the Conservation District in June. But it's possible that we could get an early approval. If we get an earlier approval, then we can begin to execute the project immediately. So that's the reason for the pre-approval. The project is schedule critical. So we're looking at a completion of the bridge December 1st. So I'm looking for any opportunity I can to improve the schedule and compress some of the project activities. This was a strategy we discussed back in February.
Yeah, I think.
Sorry, Donna, go ahead.
I was just, yes, I think we're all waiting for the next person to say something.
Yeah.
I just, the key is what we did discuss at the last meeting, is that no money will be spent
Right.
that will jeopardize our grant money. There is certain money that we can spend from our pocket, but no, we're very conscious that nothing gets spent that will take away from the grant. And hopefully we'll know next month what that is, and then we can move forward.
Incidentally, the terms of payment for this particular contract, surprisingly, are net 30 days after he installs the bridge. you're well into October, November there. So there's no expenditure needed for this contract in the near term.
And I think, and John, I want you to correct me if I'm wrong on this too, is I think one of the things about the choice of how we're solving this Hess Mill Bridge problem is a type of prefabricated bridge, concrete prefab bridge, and there are very few people who actually make that style of bridge, which is why that also makes this bidder kind of unique. Right? Would that be accurate?
That's correct. Right now, he doesn't have any direct competition. So we did, as a result of the RFQ that was issued April 27th, the only bid we received today was from Contact Engineering for a contract sum of $201,730. The estimated amount allocated in the scope of work is $221,150 and indicates a reduction in our estimated cost of $19,420. So that's a major benefit to the project on the money side.
I know in past years, past boards weren't that enthusiastic about getting public funds, but I think this is just so much money that we could save, that we could apply other areas, that I've been pushing for it for a while, and I really appreciate that we're progressing it, and it looks pretty likely that we'll get it. We'll see what happens.
It seems highly likely that we're going to get the funds. They already have, I think we're looking for 296,000, I think. They already have allocated 170,000 and are waiting for the next installment, which they should know about in late June. So in talking to them, and I haven't talked to them directly, Joan and Jeff are talking to them, the Conservation District is very enthusiastic for this project. So it seems very likely we're going to get the grant, although nothing's sure until the check's in the mail. So
That's great. Okay, thanks, John.
So could I just comment? So John, we basically, as a township, will be spending about 25% of the cost of this bridge. And if this grant comes through, like we're hoping it will, 75% of the cost of repairing this bridge it won't come out of our pocket. That's fabulous.
that's correct. Our component is 75,000.
Right.
We did pick up another $5,000 potential charge from PICO to de-energize the overhead lines locally during the bridge erection. But this $20,000 reduction in the estimated amount for the bridge is huge for us. So that's given us a nice cushion here on the total cost of the project. So
not to mention
our input.
That's terrific.
Yeah. Yeah, so smart business and I think smart leadership for our community.
So.
And just a comment, it's not like it's free. I mean, we are taxpayers, so we pay money into different the state, Chester County. But it's nice to, like Nancy says, to
get it back.
be able to take have advantage of some of these grants that are out there.
As I always say, that money is going somewhere. So, we have to decide whether we want it to come here or whether we want it to go somewhere else.
And it's a good project. It's something that's worthwhile. Good.
Just don't lose sight of the fact that it's all public money.
That's what we just said. Yep.
Private money.
Nothing's free in life.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need to vote.
We have to vote, right?
Any other discussion on this issue? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say nay. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks, John.
Next one.
Yeah, so we're gonna.
Bannister Bridge, that's right.
Yeah, that's right. So we're going to give a brief update, Paul Overton and I. So we are in the middle of this bridge design, footbridge for the Bannister Park. I'm going to share my screen so we can see. Hopefully, everybody will be able to. The host has disabled participant screen sharing. Joan, can you
give up control?
If you can share your own screen, or let's see if I can do it. Yeah. But if you can share your own screen, Joan, and put the plans up, you can do it that way.
You want to do that? I'll just give people a history. Oh, Joan, do you need?
Do you want me to put the drawing up? Is that? what-
Yes, that's what I'm asking you to do.
Okay.
So I think probably this started about 7 or 8 years ago. So this is a heck of a project. We have a nice little park, Banniffshire, and it's been getting a lot of use lately. And as someone who's done it quite a bit, there's quite a steep beginning. You can really get hurt if you're older or, you know, whatever, don't have quite the agility of maybe someone who's 17 or 18. It's quite a steep drop down, cross over a creek, and then go back up. And so I think many years ago, Paul started on a bridge idea, and then it kind of sat for a long, long time. And then last year it was picked back up by John, and I think we'll just go from there.
So thanks for the background. So we have a span bridge design. It looks like the bridge design should be coming up shortly here. It's
Can you see it?
we see your files. You need to share your screen.
Well, it's
Yeah.
up on mine, so it should be there shortly.
Yeah, it's just opening up, I guess.
Yeah, I see your I see the file. I see your directory. I don't see the actual file.
Have you clicked on the file, Joan?
Yes, I did. It's up on my screen. Oh, wait a minute here. Sorry.
I have a paper copy in front of me so I can see the plan.
Here we
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, we
There
go.
it
we
There
got
you
it.
go.
Perfect. So so I'll let Paul walk us through where we're at with the bridge design. And then afterwards, we do have some of the cost estimate for the construction of the bridge that we can go over as well.
Sure. Thanks, Dave.
Yeah.
And thanks for the opportunity to present it. On the left side of the screen here, you can see an overhead view. The bridge location is the same as we've always proposed, right off of the parking lot. The existing trail is a ghost line there just above the bridge structure. So it's just a few feet upstream from the existing trail. We met with John Wetzel on Monday from LTL, and he was very good about getting it all together. So just after that 1 hour meeting, we agreed on a bridge design. You can see on the right side of the screen, it's a timber pole bridge based off of the federal guidelines. It's 3 timber poles as supports with 3x8 pressure treated decking, just like the other bridges we've built, and 4x6 uprights for handrails. John did add more handrail cross members or horizontal members so that he feels we're obligated to meet the child protection guidelines where no gap in the handrail can be more than 4 inches. So the federal guidelines don't call for this. And as I've walked through White Clay Creek on the Delaware side or Pennsylvania side or any other state park, no one meets that, but our engineer wants us to make the 4-inch
Well,
requirement. So that's on the plan. That's what we'll build. So it's a little bit extra money and a little bit extra weight. And then he also increased the number of uprights on the handrail. Typically we space them at 6 feet apart, and he's got them 5 feet apart. So if you think about the handrail on your deck, it's probably nowhere near 5 feet. That's quite a lot of uprights there. And then to support the bridge, each end, he's added a deep foundation made of 8x8 pressure treated timbers sitting on a cast concrete footer. And then the center support is the same, but just a taller version. Could you go back to that for a second, Joan?
Back to the first page.
Yeah. Yeah, so the bridge shows a little bit of a slope, and I questioned him on that because our intent is for the bridge to be level. He has no problem with that. He said he just did that to show a drawing, that there was no intention there to make the bridge that sloped.
That's good. I agree with you. I think it should be level if we can do that.
nobody wants to fall on the bridge.
Yeah, I admit that this pressure treated material gets kind of slippery in the fall when the wet leaves are on it. So you want to make as level of a walking surface as possible. We do have 3/4 inch gaps between the boards, so there's plenty of place for the rain to fall through and light to pass through, but level is better.
Yeah, I think when we were talking with the engineers, there has to be a slight incline or a slight decline, depending on your perspective, to allow for runoff. Maybe I misunderstood that.
Well, that was he said he would like that, but I guarantee this thing won't be spot on level because we're dealing with tapered telephone poles, right? So
Right.
we do our best, but it's just like the deck outside your house. The deck is pretty level and it drains, and this is no different, except this is much narrower than your deck.
And so one of the other things that we wanted to make sure as we built this design was there was a number of concerns from the DEP involving filling in the wetlands. They preferred a span rather than filling in the wetlands here. So we went with the span. The Army Corps of Engineers, we wanted to make sure that we addressed their concerns. One of their concerns, as Paul pointed out, is to make sure that there are gaps in the decking to allow light to go through the decking and hit the wetlands. One of their concerns, environmental concerns, is shadowing over wetlands, which is what they would consider, equally as destructive as you're substantially changing the wetlands. So the good news is that there is a high likelihood that we're going to pass our permitting. We should, as we are addressing all of the concerns that were presented by both of those bodies. So we're pretty pleased. At least Paul and I are pretty pleased with the progress so far. And I want to thank John Wetzel for his help on this. We talked about this on Monday to make some changes, and the next day we had the plans on yesterday. So that was very excellent work. Very pleased.
And so last year we had a different design that the DEP rejected, but we're confident that this will be accepted and then we can move forward based on when it's possible. This is going to be a volunteer effort, unlike the last plan. And I certainly appreciate those volunteers for, it's not going to be an easy project, but there are a lot of experienced, passionate volunteers led by Paul to help make it happen.
So I think go ahead. Sorry, Donna.
Well, I was going to ask you, because I also do appreciate your efforts, so don't take the question the wrong way. Are you guys going to be able to handle those long poles? Because I think that's kind of what John had asked you. I mean, do you need to buy some equipment or rent some equipment?
So yeah, I'm very concerned about that as well, right? We've handled poles that are about 2/3 this size for the other bridge. And if I can't handle them, right, we can either do it the slow way with jacks and cribbing, or in the estimate, I've allowed $1,000 allowance for either Jimmy DeRazio or whoever to bring in a bigger backhoe than mine and move the poles for us.
I think that's smart. I mean, I know I've been the one that's been bugging people about the cost, but I don't want anybody getting hurt. And I'd rather pay the $1,000 to make sure you guys
right
aren't putting any jeopardy.
And it might be that we drag the poles into place with the backhoe, which I'm pretty confident we can do that. That's not a deal. It's just lifting them onto the supports is where the effort is more difficult. And so we'll get them into place, and then if we need a bigger backhoe to come lift them, that's what we'll hire or whoever.
This is a tremendous cost savings over the concrete culvert. And
So,
become quite an expensive project, is all I'll say.
So one of the things that I want to stress too is, we will be bringing this project back monthly. We're going to be keeping everybody abreast to developments and timelines, and making sure that we all are on the same page as far as what things are, where the expenses are, how much this thing is costing us. And then per the board decision, we have a budget of $10,000 for the construction of this bridge. And so the decision point, just so the public understands and the board knows, is if anything hits that budget ceiling, we need to come back and talk about it and revote. Right now, we are well below that, and we can talk a little bit about the estimate next. And so I don't know, Joan, if you have the spread, a financial document, or if you can allow me to share my screen, I can show you the rough outline that Paul sent us. So if you can give me participants you can give me the option to share my screen, I would appreciate it.
Okay, should I take down the plan?
Yeah, take down the plan and give me screen sharing rights, and I can share my I can share what we have for the cost so far on materials.
Okay, give me a second here. I'll get this.
All right. And as we go forward, we want to make sure that you understand this is phase one. We just began the bridge construction process. So some of these might change, likely will change as this happens. All right, so
I think
yep, I got it. So
okay.
you should see my screen now. This is the footbridge cost details that Paul worked out for us. Thank you, Paul. Why don't you walk us through this?
Okay, so you can see on the left side is a list of materials, and then column D is just a better description or notes to myself. And then account in column E, and then a unit price column F, and then the final price in column G. So the first line item is one of the biggest, is the decking material. They're 3 by 8 by 16. So a 3 by 8 is unusual. That's a thicker material. And we've learned from the bridges in the White Clay Creek State Park, the Delaware trail spinners that build them, introduced me to this 3 by 8 material. It's much more durable, lasts a lot longer, and it's much more resistant to, I should say, teenagers or vandalism, or, people with kids pounding on them or whatever. So I really like this material. It's what we've used on the other bridges, but it is the biggest expense at $1,590. So the other ones, I don't want to go through each item, but there's nails and the plan calls for bolts for the handrails. I do not have any spikes in this design. Timber ties are some long screws, 6 or 8 inch long screws that you use to screw the handrail uprights into the structure. We have 4 tons of stone. I put in money for that for $120, but if that's something the township can give out of the road crew, that would be 120 less, although it's still township money, so it's in there. The 3 telephone poles, 2 of them we have that meet the requirement. We do not have 3, so we need to buy 1 pole. Joan did a really good job and got a price fast today. We finally found someone willing to sell us a pole, and her price was $600 plus 100 delivery. No, $500 plus 100 delivery. But the pole she quoted me was a little bit too narrow, so I put in 800 just to make it a little bit thicker pole. All right, and then there you can see on line 13 is what Don was asking about. There's $1,000. I said Jim moved poles, but maybe it's not Jim, whoever it might be. My neighbor has an excavating business. Maybe it's him. I don't know. We'll see who, is more willing to help, and maybe we can get a donation. And then down below, line 15 is all the handrail materials. So the 2 by 6 by 12s were the original design, and with the new LTL design, I had to switch that to 2 by 6 by 16. So that's why there's $0 for 2 by 6 by 12s. And you can read some of the comments there with the increase in the number of rails and stuff and uprights and pricing. That's all pricing from Lowe's. If Joan can get a better price from Oxford Feed or A&A or somebody, this is just, budget numbers for your information. Then the numbers in yellow, this is why I was hesitant to share the estimate. I do not have solid numbers on the few numbers in yellow. They're small dollars, but for example, the plan calls for a 3-inch clip at the base of the handrail, and there's no spec on that. Is that a strong tie? Is that a heavy clip, or is that galvanized? I don't know. So I just budgeted $15 each at 22 sets. So that's $330 as an example. 8x8s that are the supporting foundations, I can't find. Lowe's no longer sells them. Home Depot no longer sells them. So we need to call around and get quotes for that. I mean, they are out there. They are for sale. I just can't find a price on them in time for this. So I estimated $75 each for the 8-footers and $100 each for the 10-footers.
And Paul, I'll just note you're well under the amount we agreed to as a board. So even if you have some, you know, changes there, I can't imagine it's going to go over.
Right. And we might have to go back to the engineer and say, we need to use telephone poles instead of 8x8s or something, you know,
Yeah.
cut up a telephone pole. So there's other options. I'm just trying to be open that, you know, if someone says your estimate was wrong, well, I'm telling you where the weak spots are right here.
Right. Okay.
And then line 23 is a rubber membrane material. You wrap the ends of the poles where they touch the soil to prevent rot. And then here's something new is the plan calls for a mulch erosion sock for sediment control. And the ones he called for are $160 each for a 25-foot sock. And I think that's ridiculous. So I would rather, I put it in there as a placeholder, but I'm proposing to the engineer that we use hay bales for sediment and erosion control. Because, you know, I can get a hay bale for $5 and I can get a lot of hay bales for $160. So if I buy 2 socks, that's $320 that I think is not money well spent. So we'll try to improve on that number. The spec calls for strong tie pier connectors. I cannot find them in 8-inch, so I need a better specification from the engineer exactly what he wants there, or a part number. I can find that. Then let's go down the line 27, the disc at the bottom of the poles. That's a footer. That's a precast puck that you just drop in the hole. I can't find a price on them, so I just guessed at $30 a piece. If nothing else, we'll buy a couple bags of concrete and make our own footer. I also added $100 for orange fence. This is thinking safety for the public. You know, this job's going to be underway for a couple weeks here because we're volunteers, we're working the weekends, and we would reroute the trail away from the work area temporarily and put up an orange fence to keep the job site safe. Now, we wouldn't leave anything dangerous like open holes or, you know, rebar impalement hazards or something, but just to keep people from messing with the material. Then the bottom, if you could scoot up just a little bit, Joan, the bottom there is 15% contingency on top of that. So I put in that's $1,000 to me to just as a placeholder for something I missed. For example, you know, as I think about this project, like when we're digging the holes, you know, it might be a rainy season because I don't know when we're going to do this. It might be September, and we might need to rent some sump pumps. You know, I have a sump pump, but it's electric, and that doesn't help me in the middle of the woods. So I might have to rent a gas-powered sump pump, for example. I have no idea. So that puts me at $7,700 with the $1,000 contingency. So if we don't spend that, then that's not used. Now, I just want to remind the members of the public, I am not a contractor. This is not a bid. This is just a budget estimate, and that I don't get any money. All the materials are bought directly by the township, and they're delivered to the township, and then I go pick them up as I need to use them.
Thanks, Paul. And I think the other pieces is this is you know, while we've been saying this isn't the final budget because we don't have the final materials in hand, we don't anticipate too much movement in this cost. You know, we have a 15% contingency fee. We have, you know, the $1,000 for moving the poles. Those are still being negotiated. We're still looking at whether or not we'll need this. And even so, we're still under budget in the construction materials. So things are looking good so far. And as we get closer to actual decision making, we'll revisit. So any comments? I don't know, Paul, if there's anything else we want to add to where we're at and what we expect to have done in the next 30 days before the next board meeting.
So if
David, I got one comment here. Really a question for our attorney, Mark Thompson, related to the township's liability for injuries by the workers. this is a different project than the previous bridges, which are all done on private property. This one's being done on township. I believe there's some different liability here, so I would appreciate much comments on liability.
Well, John, can you hear me?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can hear you.
Yep.
It is an improvement, and it's on township land. So we would, I think the risk is low because we're not talking about a high bridge or something that, you're going to be driving cars over. So I don't see a lot of risk. That being said, if something were to happen, the township would, would have liability from an improvement. This wouldn't be subject to the Unimproved Lands Act, given the fact that it is actually a physical improvement to the park.
So, but John, I think you were asking about the workers, not the improvement itself.
I'm talking about the guys, the volunteers that are working on it, because I'm looking at their protection, because you're lifting a really heavy pole and you're working at almost 5 feet above the ground. So even if you're using equipment, there are some risks there. So
yeah, we've dealt with volunteers in the past. And we do everything we can to ensure that people who are truly volunteering are not township employees, and they wouldn't be subject to the township's insurance policy. That being said, anyone doing anything in the park, could potentially sue the township. I'm not suggesting that would happen here, but that, we'd have to put some controls in place to ensure that this is done safely.
So,
And Paul's done this in the past, and certainly we can trust that he knows what he's doing now.
Yeah. So would you recommend, Mark, that we have waivers? We sign, the volunteers sign a waiver that says, I understand that I'm building a bridge and injury could occur?
I do, Dave. We have a standard waiver that we've worked on over the years for other projects. And certainly we can take a look at that and make sure that it's applicable to this scenario. And I think they've even been, road cleanups and possible trail building.
Okay.
So yeah, I would recommend that.
Okay, great.
But take away,
Hold on. I think Paul, you're on mute.
yeah, you're on mute.
yeah, but I sounded really good. So this is not the first bridge on township property. This is the second bridge in Banffshire itself. And then the many Boy Scout projects building signage and trails and stuff like that. And each time we have signed the waiver, or not we, the volunteers and I have all signed waivers. So we understand that's a requirement to do the project, and that's not a problem. Most people are happy to sign it.
I just want to add the takeaway, though. It is important. If you think something is beyond volunteer effort, the money is not as important as your safety. So whatever's needed, come back to Joan and us and let's do it so that we don't put anybody at risk.
Yeah, that's right. And I've got 31 years at DuPont in their engineering division doing construction projects. So I think I'm pretty familiar with construction safety, and I will make sure it's a safe job.
Thank you,
Great.
Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
Yeah.
All right.
Nice job, Paul. Very nice.
Yeah, thank you, Paul.
Yep. No
All
problem. I have no idea when we can do this, though. If I can't have members 6 feet apart wearing respirators, right? I need.
Yeah.
Well, who knows how long DEP approval will take? So let's
Right.
wait till we get that. And then we'll
But seriously, I imagine this is going to be like a September project before it's all done. So I don't know.
We've waited 8 years. We can wait a few more months.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right. Well, thanks, Paul. I appreciate the work that you've done over the past couple of days, quite literally the last 2 days, getting this pulled together for this meeting. So I appreciate the work.
Yep, no problem.
All right. So there's nothing to vote on for this. So
Okay.
Should we move on then?
yeah, I'm okay with that. And I just lost my.
Okay. I make a motion that the board adopt resolution 2020-13, discontinuing the 10% penalty on late township tax payments through December 31st, 2020. Seconded by?
I'll second it.
Mary. Discussion. Joan, do you have any sense of, is there anything that we need to discuss that we may not be aware of, or?
No, I think this is something good to do for the residents, and it's not going to impact us
Right.
that much.
Relatively minor, okay. Any other discussion? All right. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say nay. Motion carries 5-0.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll move to the next item. I make a motion that the board authorizes the manager to sign the proposal from the general. Am I okay?
You're good.
I'll start again. I make a motion that the board authorizes the manager sign the proposal from general code for an editorial and legal analysis of the Franklin Township Code as outlined in the proposal dated March 20th, 2020 at a cost not to exceed $8,000. A second for that?
I'll second that.
Thanks, Dave. So I actually have a question. Joan, I went through the proposal, and I do acknowledge that it's been a long time since we've done this. And I do acknowledge that when we've worked on other ordinances, we sometimes find things that are kind of contradictory, or I don't want, I mean, this probably needs to be done. I was confused by the cost. So I saw a cost for $6,425, and then I saw another cost for $7,645. Does the $7,645 include everything that the $6,425 includes, or do I have to add them together?
They would be added together. The $6,000 cost would include them reviewing our ordinances and finding any discrepancies or inconsistencies. And they would come up with a list of those. And then we can go and make changes to our ordinances on our time frame, and, you know, whichever ones we feel more important, and revise the ordinances. Now, if we wanted them to draft a mega ordinance or resolution, ordinance to do all these revisions for us and provide us with new books, that's what that cost of $7,000 includes.
Okay, so we're talking about the first part, though, right? Can we talk about the first part first? Does the board agree or not agree that it would be worth spending $6,425 on an assessment of our ordinances that would produce a list of issues that this particular group thinks that we should be looking at? Can we start there with our conversation?
I think we should only agree to that tonight because we don't know what they'll come up with. There may be no problems. So we can't possibly vote on anything more than assessment.
And I totally agree. I mean, the $13,000 kind of scares me, or the $14,000. I think we can look at one chunk first.
Yeah, but you put an $8,000 limit on the motion itself.
Okay. So, should we start? I mean, Joe, it might be good for you to give us some background. I know you've been asking to do this for, at least I know of one other time you've asked, and we kind of pushed you back. Can you want to just maybe give the board some context on why you think this is a good idea at this point in time?
Well, I mean, it's a good idea because it needs to be done. And if you want, I can go get my ordinance book and show you all the tabs and colored papers I have stuck with wherever a problem comes up. I always mark it and make a note and say, we have to address this, to address that. So there's a ton of flags in my book. So it would be a good time to do this. And I think it will make it easier to enforce our ordinances. I'm talking for like Jeff Vogel's, because he would know when he looks at something that this is the right thing. He doesn't find a discrepancy someplace else, and then what do we do? So it's something that I think is overdue. So if you can
I totally agree. I attempted to go through our ordinances for that granny flat ordinance. It was just mind boggling how messed up some of them are. I don't see how we cannot do this, honestly.
Can I ask another question about timing? And one may have nothing, I mean, it's just a question. I'm not trying to lead us a certain way. We're going to be doing some work on the comprehensive plan. And could that lead to zoning? Like, should we get that out of the way first, or is that not a good idea? Is it something you want, that could be,
Does
they're
one
two
thing
separate, things, look at them differently?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. So if we have a comprehensive plan, we don't change ordinances, do we?
Well, we could change zoning, like when fair share analysis, but that still would not have anything to do with this. This picks up inconsistencies in our current ordinances. And hopefully any that we do in the future, we will know, to look for that if we rewrite or write any new ordinances.
Yeah, I have no expectation that the comprehensive plan would change ordinances.
Okay.
Other than some zoning.
Zoning is, right, that's a different topic, and that doesn't actually, I mean, to change zoning doesn't mean you're changing ordinances.
Okay, all right, so the timing's not a problem. So I have another question for you, Joan. So you said you have a sticky book full of items that you see are inconsistencies. What is this $6,000 going to give us that your sticky book isn't giving us? Because you already know where the inconsistencies are. Will they show us solutions? Like, this is your inconsistencies. We suggest you do this.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know if you can see all of that. I mean, there's a lot in here.
No, I agree. I guess I don't want them just to give me another list. Like, are they going to give me?
They're going to fix it.
Yeah, they're going to just give me. I have 30 pages with things that don't agree. Good luck.
So they rewrite it, right? They go through and rewrite it so it makes sense.
Well, now what they're going to do is say, you have an inconsistency in this ordinance and in this section over here, like in subdivision and land development may say one thing, and then the zoning for that district could say something else, and there's an inconsistency. So which one do you use? So they're going to point that out. And we will rewrite the ordinances to fix that ourselves.
So I think what Donna's question is, and now my question is, wouldn't we just pay somebody to take your notes and fix the township?
My notes, I know that there's something wrong with that particular section. I don't know if it's anyplace else in the book.
But it's not connected. So they're going to do a comprehensive audit and say, these are all the mistakes.
Yes.
And then we can hand that, and presumably it's in a format that an editor will understand, and we just give them that and they fix it.
Yes. And
we're going to have to consciously fix it. We got to fix it. Right, because there'll be choices.
Do we rewrite it, or I can't imagine we rewrite it. We would have attorney rewrite it.
Mark rewrites them.
Right, Mark will rewrite it.
But we can pick out how many or what section we want to do at a time. If we wanted to pay them the additional funds, they would do a massive rewrite and it gets approved all at one time, all the changes made. And that's why they're in the cost of they're including new books, because there would be such a massive change.
So, and this came about just for levity's sake. It got on my radar because I got a question from a resident as to how many goats they could have on their property. I read the ordinance, and Joan and I got into a back and forth that's like a half a dozen emails long, trying to understand exactly how many goats you could have on how many acres. And so I think that's what started the thought process that maybe we need to make something clearer and make some of our ordinances a little bit more understandable by folks. So.
And it's not you. This has been going. I mean, Joe's been asking for this for years.
No, I know. It's just that's how it got on my radar. Was I couldn't understand it.
Jeff just gave me a question from Facebook, or a comment from Facebook, and this is from Michael O'Brien, and he says that the Chester County Planning Commission offers grants to lead this process. So that is something I will definitely check into.
Perfect.
Great. Good suggestion.
Good. And Joan, maybe also, I mean, I'm still not I'm not against this, but could you find out the form, like, have you seen the format of how they'll give you the comments? Like, will they say, for example, the issue is a number of goats, and in section blah, 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 it says this, and in section blah, 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 it says this? You need to like, do they lay it out for you by issue?
I can ask for a sample.
Yeah.
Right, but that would be good.
Joan, I think that we had resolved that animal ordinance there many years ago. We just need to get LTL to give us the interpretation, but I believe that's been resolved.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a hard pressing issue. It's just,
No,
that's how I got noticed where I didn't understand it.
That issue's been resolved. That whole chicken and horse thing, we did a fairly. And the best thing there is to let LTL's zoning officer make the interpretation. If you get involved in that, you're liable to interpret it wrong, give it a little incorrect information, and then it's hard to pull it back. My comments on this activity is that, you know, the review you're talking about is really just the beginning of it, because the recommendation is going to come back from them with all these inconsistencies. You're going to have to get LTL and our attorney to rewrite all this stuff. There's a whole lot of other costs that could come as a result of this thing. I'm fundamentally opposed to doing a thing this year because it's $8,000 for something that doesn't have really high value at this point. We've got a potentially budget challenge year. Our EIT income's probably going to be off significantly. So I just don't see this as a critical item. I'd put it off at least a year. So my vote is no on this issue.
So now,
Why don't we go around the table and allow each person to give their
Yeah, sure.
perspective?
So my comment on that would be, you know, Joan is going to look into public funds that might be available. So maybe we don't, you know, maybe we push the motion to get this started until we get more information on total cost, because I think it would be important, to John's point, you know, getting and again, I'm not opposed to this in principle, but getting the full cost, right? So the phase one, which is get the books straightened out. Phase two is correcting the books, right?
Right. I think that's where a lot of money is involved in actually implementing the change.
Right.
Changes.
So would it be possible, Joan, to get the two costs, right? Phase one, which is identify the problems. Phase two, correct the problems. And then how much money that we would be able to get from public funding sources to correct the issue.
Okay.
And then we can, once we get that full picture, I think the board would be in a better position to vote on whether or not we should do it. I mean, and to John's point, this isn't something that if we don't do it this month, the whole township collapses. We can talk about it in a month once we get the full cost. So I think it's a valid point that, you know, we're voting for the first half and we really don't have the full picture on the second half.
My 2 cents is I think we're legally exposed with this. I think people have been putting it off for years and years. I think that we have a windfall from a very warm winter. We're looking at an excess from not having to do road projects of about $170,000. I don't think you can know what it's going to cost until you complete the assessment. So in my view, although it's not fun, it's not exciting, I think it's the foundation of a well-run township, and I believe it should be done. The assessment should be done. That's what I'm willing to commit to.
Mary, you haven't said anything.
Well, I kind of feel the way you do, Nancy, that I think we need to do the assessment, and that's not a lot of money. And I agree with John that based on what they find from their assessment, that's when we're really going to have to start spending money. And that's when we'll have to decide how much can we do this year, how much can we do next year. But the process has to start, because we could run into trouble with conflicts, and they're there, as Joan just showed us her book.
Well,
So yeah, I think we should start it.
So would it be, well, I'm sorry, I already spoke. Donna, would you like to?
Yeah.
I have a feeling, Dave, you and I are going to go to the same place. I think we have to find out what could be available for public money, because I don't want to get in the same problem that we could have gotten with the bridge, that once we start spending money, that then we lose out the public money. So
Yeah.
I think it's worth giving Joan, some time, a month, not more than a month, to find out about the public money and then come back at the next meeting, or if we have to do it before then, that's fine, to make a final decision. But I don't think we should agree to spend our money yet until we find out what's available from a public perspective.
Okay, I will reach out to General Code and ask for a sample of what it is we will be getting so we can see
Right.
what's
So
involved. And then
yeah,
reach out
so I
to
think there's three, oh, sorry, go ahead, Joan.
the Chester County Planning Commission to see if there is any funds available. And I just want to say one more thing, David, then I'll turn it over to you. But we had a problem when we tried to take the gentleman to court up here on the corner.
Right.
The first time we did that, and the judge came back and said, your ordinance isn't valid. It doesn't say that you can do this. We were trying to charge him with different issues, and the judge says, your ordinance doesn't say this. It's not written well.
Mm-hmm.
So we have since redone that for, so that one we've taken care of, but I'm just saying there are other issues like that. And if you're ever challenged, then you're going to be in the same boat. I mean, the judge threw that stuff out and nothing came of it.
Joan, I seriously doubt whether this code company would find an issue like that. They're looking for conflicts. This is just kind of an omission.
Well,
So I think that's one of the things that we need to get clarified, because if it's just wording consistency, we want to make sure that it's more than just wording consistency. If it's just wording consistency, then what is it getting us? But if it's more than that, then
I think even if, well, look, let's just let it play out. Joan, if you can come back next month and tell us what we're going to get.
Yeah.
Frankly, I like things to be orderly, logical, and sensible. And our ordinances are not really any of those things. And so to me,
yeah. I mean, I think we're all in violent agreement. We just are looking for a little bit clearer picture. So, I think the three things that I would look for is what they're going to give us, what the next step is, and what that could potentially look like. So how much it would cost, right? The correction, and then the public funding sources, if there are any.
Again, David, just have to articulate, they can't tell us how much it will cost until we know what the assessment tells us, okay?
So there's a price range, right? So there's a price range.
My guess is that, well, no, sorry. My guess is that once, I'm assuming that where we would get grants is in the correcting of the ordinance.
Mhm.
So let's see what happens, because that's what
Yeah.
the cost is.
Yeah.
To me, $8,000 is not as significant as what we spent on the Banashard Bridge so far. I mean, and that's gotten us nowhere. This at least is going to get us something that is useful and tells us how big of a problem we have. Without that, we really don't know. So we have to start somewhere. I don't think we want to get into analysis paralysis, but let's give Joan a month to tell us what she learns.
So do I withdraw the motion? Is that what I have to do, or how?
I don't just think we don't vote on it.
So,
I'll
well,
just
Withdraw it.
withdraw the
okay.
motion.
I withdraw the motion. Okay. I think Nancy's gonna have to have a chance to comment on. She has to put something in the minutes. So we just withdrew it for next month.
Joan, are you okay?
Yes.
Okay. All right, let's move on.
All right. I make a motion that the board accept the extension of time to the review clock for the Able subdivision through October 22nd, 2020. Seconded by?
I'll second that.
All right, seconded by Donna.
Like how-
Discussion.
All the time. Okay. I don't
Okay.
think discussion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Okay. Motion carries 5-0.
Mary and Donna, I know you've been working on the website. We got a draft.
We
recently.
have.
You
we
want
have.
to tell us a little bit about it? It looks fantastic.
It does. Donna, I made a few notes. How about if I read them and then you add in everything I forget, okay? Is that all right
You
with
go,
you?
Mary. You got it. Go for it.
Okay. Well, just so everyone knows, we hired Civic Plus to design our new website. And we received a mock-up of page 1 of the website. If anyone wants an idea of what it's going to look like, go to the Downingtown website. We will be similar, not exactly the same, but similar.
So,
And note too, we can change the information buttons as we go along. That's not a big deal. We are going to move all the information that's on our current website. It'll be transported to the new website, and then we'll add additional information that we feel is needed. Donna and I and Joan are conversing with Civic Plus, and we'll report to the full board when the website's finished, which I'm assuming is sometime this summer, hopefully early summer. Also, I'd just like to say, I'd like to encourage the residents when we do get this website up and running, that they visit it and they let us know, give us their comments and questions. You got it, Donna.
No, you did great, Mary. I just so the public does know, Mary and Dave have been really leading this, trying to, really as a response to when they talk to voters, some of their concerns with the current website. So I think the public should know that your comments have been heard, and really that's at the forefront when we talk to the web designer about what we're looking for. And I think there's going to be some features in there like the easy find button. There's going to be a calendar, which is something that's close to Dave's heart. There's going to be other buttons that will get you directly to either zoning information or some forms. There's going to be a way for the public to sign up for website alerts, for email alerts. So we're really trying to keep you foremost in our minds as we think about what's going to be best for our residents. And as Mary said, once we make this up running, it's going to be a little bit of time. Once it gets up there, though, we really would like to hear your comments and hear how we can make it even better.
Thanks, Donna. Dave, did you want to say something?
actually, I just wanted to, say that if Joan could, if she has the mock-up of the work in progress, she could share with the.
Want me to try that again, right?
Go for it, Joan, go for it.
Every day's a learning day.
That you
Well,
want
I could try.
But, so yeah, but it looks good.
while we're having other conversation, and then once you get it up, great.
Yeah, that's fine.
So we don't put any pressure on you.
So I guess, well, maybe we have, for the next conversation, Mary, maybe
Okay.
Joan should work on sharing the
Yeah.
artwork.
By the next meeting, it should be pretty far along. Maybe we
Okay.
can demo it.
Yeah, we'll do it then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
John, anything?
Donna and Mary, I looked at the mock-up this morning for the first time, and it may be just the mock-up, but what I saw, the fonts were extremely small. I'm assuming that's not going to be the way it's going to actually look.
Well, John, maybe look at Downingtown and see if that looks small to you.
I just got
It's
the
in the
comment
email,
from
so
Mary.
I don't
What
get it.
was shown
Email
wasn't a
to me.
full screen picture. The fonts look really
And
small
that email it to me, so it's at the
compared to
top.
what you see on a typical website.
That was not a full screen, which is the sample that he gave us. When you call that up, when it's a real website, it will take up the full screen and it will be larger.
Yeah, but I want to see what the font sizes look like when it actually comes up, because they're really small.
Yeah, take a look at the Downingtown template, and then you'll see what the final mock-up will look like.
Oh,
Yeah, it's just something to be aware of, because if you look at other websites in our current one, the font sizes are really big.
Well, it is a compromise because we don't have a lot of information on our current website. So you have to find the balance.
Oh, yeah, we got you. It's a,
I dispute that. This current website has a tremendous amount of information.
On the
compared
front page, John, on the front
to-
page.
The formatting is something you're working on, and that's your project, but there's plenty of information. There's more information on our website than most townships have. So I don't think that's an appropriate comment.
It's the
John,
format.
we'll make sure, Mary and I will make sure that the font is, and Joan will make sure the font issue is addressed. So I will.
Yeah, and I think, go ahead, Donna.
No, I was going to say we'll pay particular attention to that when we see when we look.
Well,
at
I
the-
think the reason for the mock-up, what the web designer is really looking for right now is, do you like that logo? Because that's not going to change. Anything
Right.
else on their buttons and things, he's just trying to give us an idea of what it'll look like. I would not expect it to be really small print. There's no website they have done that I've looked at that the font size looked too small. This is, his concern is our logo, and is this pretty much the direction you want to go in? And that's, I think, all we're agreeing to right now.
Right.
Okay, I want to, so any other comments? Obviously, this isn't the last conversation, so we'll have lots of opportunity to provide input. Okay, well, before we go to the two winners of the coloring contest, I do want to add, I've added an item to the agenda. That is a discussion around, we've reinstituted the staff meetings, which are Wednesday meetings where two board members sit with the staff and approve funding of projects. And in the past, that funding was sometimes tens of thousands of dollars, and it was not necessarily made public at a board meeting. And so as we reinstitute the staff meetings, I would like to propose a maximum amount of money that the board members, the two board members and the staff can approve without a broader discussion at the board meeting. So my recommendation is we say $5,000. Now we have just agonized over $8,000, right? Or $7,000. So we do have kind of a weird dichotomy of worrying so much about some things and then not even seeing what's getting spent in other ways. So I want to try to balance that out a little bit.
So one of the things that is, from my understanding of township code, we are not allowed to make any decisions without board approval. You can't go into a staff meeting and decide to spend anything, right? Unless it's a pre-approved project, right? So if you have a pre-approved project, right, like a road, you can say the potholes, the pothole scheme for the year, we can actually spend that. But if I go in and say, I would like to, pave a path behind such and such park for $10,000, I can't do that without board approval because that is a project, right?
But there's certain so I don't think it's the amount of money. I think it's the project that's the issue. So if you have a tree that's in the middle of a road, or you have a road that's being washed out, it's the immediacy of the issue, right, that you can't sit there and say, okay, well, that's going to sit there for a month until I get the board together.
Right.
So I think what I would like us to focus on is not so much the amount, though I'm sure that becomes critical, but the type of project. Like you said, Dave, we would never, even if it was $2,000, we shouldn't agree to pave a road. Do a road project, because that's something that we should have a strategy to, and it should be something that we agree to in a strategy meeting. Just would do that. But there are things that need to be done within the week or within a couple of weeks that we need to be able to agree to.
Right. Hold on. Let me clear. In the past, and I will give one example. Stefan and I were there's tons and tons of examples, but Stefan and I were in a board meeting and Joan said, look, we've got to trim some trees. It wasn't urgent. There was nothing going on. I think it was going to be about $8,000. And Stefan and I both said, that seems like a lot of money. Should this go to a board? And the discussion was, well, maybe not necessarily. Well, luckily, Joan went back and looked at the covenant for that neighborhood and realized that it wasn't actually a township. We weren't committed to cutting those trees. So we saved $8,000. But that was just one of many, many, many examples I've seen over the past 2 years of things getting approved that are not urgent, that are quite expensive at the staff meetings. And it has always made me uncomfortable. And I think we need to correct that. Now, I completely understand emergency activities. I don't want that to be the red herring. If something has to be done, it has to be done. But that is not what I'm talking about.
So I think Mark was about to make a step in here. He might be the.
No, I just wanted to clarify the work that we're talking about is work that has been bid. So the township had bid out its road maintenance contractor, time and materials, and then you have a certain amount. I think it might be two or 3 years. You have the ability to utilize that contractor. So I think Joan, as things come up, Joan utilizes the public, as like it were the roadmaster, so to speak, taking care of issues. So the work has been bid. It's just the jobs haven't been determined yet. And then the decision for the board would be, what's the level of, participation do you want to have the board involved in projects?
Joe, could you speak to this? Because I know you have to deal with this. Like, you have to make this work, and
When
I'm worried that if we wait every month, that could hamper us getting some stuff done. Could you make a comment?
Yes, you have to think of Jim as our public works person, his crew. So, you don't look for work for them, but you have to, if you have something that needs to be done, it needs to be done in a timely manner so that you can schedule things out through the week or 2 weeks or whatever time. So that's one of the things we do. Like if something needs to be taken care of, that's what I look at. Well, does it need to be taken care of now? And then is it something that I think is worthwhile, spending the money on? And if it's maintenance to the roads, fixing potholes, ditching, things like that. I mean, I think if you look at most of everything that I bring to you, I have vetted, and it's something that I feel needs to be done. Now, like example, the code work, I brought that to you, and I'd like to see that done, but that's not something to be decided at a staff meeting. That's something that we will talk about, even though, it's $6,000, which is, a lot of money, but it's something that we will talk about as a board. Do you really want to do that? But some of the projects that we do, some of them can't wait a month. I mean, if, you come there.
We agree to that. What about the other projects that we have approved at staff meetings, including it could have been Banffshire Bridge if things hadn't taken a turn. And that was a lot of money that's gotten spent on Banffshire Bridge. Never went to a staff meeting. I never went to a board.
To actually do the bridge, that should be brought before the board the way it was.
Well, the engineering was done last year, and we're up to $10,000 in just in engineering, and people trying to decide whether they wanted a wooden bridge or a concrete bridge or a this or that. That was never approved as a board, ever.
No, but to do it was decided that we needed a bridge at Banffshire, and the first step is to do the engineering.
Did that go to a board meeting?
Be surveyed and something.
I don't want to put you on the spot, Joan, and I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but I want to say we need to be consistent. And I think we need to stop saying, well, emergencies have to happen right now. Of course they do. It's the non-emergencies that I think we really need to make sure when we spend the public's money that we've had and today's point, if the rule is that really no project other than those projects which have been considered important in the running of the township day to day, and that we have a overarching agreement with, that maybe those topics should all come to the board.
So that's not what Mark said. I mean, listen to what Mark, he had made the comment that Jim we have him on a contract for several years at a certain price.
That's
and
what
those things we're okay to approve them they don't have to come to a board meeting every particular item. So it's not like we're breaking any law.
But I mean, Joan might have spent $8,000 with Jim on something that wasn't the township's responsibility. And at one point, Jim came to me wanting to spend $100,000 to work on 2 gravel roads. And I said, no way. And so, I mean, it is tricky what can happen at those staff meetings. It's not so simple.
Well, so everyone should know that if you're, and Nancy, you've alluded to this, if you're at a staff meeting and an issue comes up and you're like, hey, this just doesn't feel right, I can't do it, that it all stops. I mean, then it's like, okay, fine, it comes to a board meeting. So every supervisor has that ability. We do rotate who comes to these meetings every, so it's not the same people all the time. And I think it works. I do. I think it works. And I trust Joan to, like she said, she vets these things. And I don't know, I feel she gives us good information. And I think, as I said, if I ever feel uncomfortable with something, I've never not been able to take it to a board meeting and have the conversation there.
What do you think? You're new to this. I've had 2 years of this. John's had 8 years. Donna's had whatever, 6. What do you think?
Who are you asking, Nancy?
Mary.
You.
Oh, okay. Well, I have difficulty signing a check for thousands of dollars because it's not my money, it's everybody's money. On the other hand, things like Bamshire, that's going to be a minimum $30,000 bridge, maybe more by the time we're done. We've spent over 12 grand already on permits and LTL and on and on and on. So yeah, I hope it comes in at 30,000 and not closer to 50.
Well, now it shouldn't
so-
because we're not doing a concrete culvert, but right.
But we did spend a lot of money on exploring that option, like over 6 grand, which that's, that didn't work. Items like that, I really do feel should come before the board. On the other hand, like any kind of road work that Jim does is extremely expensive because that's just what road work is. If we have a contract with him for a couple years, I trust Joan to say, okay, you can't pave roads right now, but you can clean out culverts, you can repair culverts. It's work that has to be done. And I think that would be Joan's job as the manager to decide, you can do this week. And then the 2 board supervisor that come in to the staff meeting can say yes or no. But if it's anything that can wait, it should come before the board because it's just a lot of money. And emergency is different. You get a big pothole, a tree falls down, it has to be taken care of. I agree with that, whatever the cost is. But no, it's a fine line between, I think, the contract we have with Jim. He's got to keep working. He's got to do his maintenance jobs. But other things like Bamshire and things like that, no, board of supervisors has to decide. And we also have to decide on total costs. Like I was pretty much blown away by the cost of this bridge. I was looking at, around 10 grand. Well, no, there's $20,000 of other things we had to pay for. So I think we need to start talking in total costs. So we have a real picture of, if we want to put a bridge in there, it's going to be 10,000 for the actual wooden nails, but it's going to cost $30,000 for the township. So yeah, I don't know about a dollar limit. If we could do it that way, maybe just more, Joan, if it gets expensive, and it can wait, it has to come before the board of supervisors. There's my 2 cents.
This is John. I've got a simple comment here related to
Okay.
this. And fundamentally, you can't micromanage the township on a monthly basis. Things just can't be that way. So you gotta trust
Speak
your
up.
listen, you gotta trust your township manager to make some decisions. If you can't do that, then you really don't have the right township manager. And I trust the township manager. We've done this for many, many years, and it's worked well. So occasionally there have been issues, but for the most part, the system worked really well. Let me give you a little history of how we got involved in the staff meetings. Before, when I first got on the board, it was hard for myself and Penny Shank to understand what was going on in the township because decisions were being made in staff meetings. And Joan invited us into the staff meetings, 2 supervisors, so that we could just oversee what's going on. So the initial idea was just to participate in the process and know what was going on. And then we worked into alternating the supervisors so that everybody had a chance to see what's going on. But fundamentally, we put our trust in the township manager. You cannot micromanage the township on a monthly basis. You're going to kill the productivity of the township. If you want to see how this goes badly, just watch London, Britain. They sign all their checks in a monthly board meeting. So that's my comment.
Yeah.
So where are we landing on this?
I think you just leave it the way it is.
I don't like the way it is, John. I don't think there's enough transparency.
I think you're wrong. You're trying to micromanage something that was.
I don't want to micromanage, but I think we have to find the balance. I think we.
I didn't finish talking and you talked over me. You're trying to micromanage the township, and I think you're going to kill the productivity of the township manager and the contractor that does the work.
I'm just concerned that of an example like Bannockshire, and I have many others where we've spent a lot of money and not been transparent with our public.
The Bamshire costs are high now because you changed your mind.
No.
I've been involved in capital projects my entire career.
He rejected your bid.
Well, you want to talk or I want to talk?
Well, you talk a lot. Go ahead.
I was explaining that I've been involved with capital projects my entire career. And when you change mind in the design process, it costs real money. And you're seeing that. There's a change in the design. That costs money.
May I speak now?
Yeah, go ahead.
So somehow we went from 8 years ago, a wooden bridge, and no one in a public meeting agreed to go to a concrete bridge, which actually wouldn't meet the goal that someone decided they wanted, which was to have gators go over a concrete bridge, which the gators can't go anywhere. Meanwhile, someone or someone's kept working with LTL to the tune of $12,000 of engineering costs that never were visible to the public. And then,
All right.
let me finish, John.
Can I talk for a minute now?
Let me finish.
A minute yet or not?
And then the DEP said, you cannot do a concrete bridge. Give us a wooden bridge. Back to square one, having spent $12,000 that are now going to be thrown out.
Let me explain how this process started. We started out with a wooden bridge. I developed a preliminary design, which was just a concept sketch, but it was based on some real measurements. And we asked LTL to look into the possibility of getting a permit for it. And after a period of time, LTL came to the township manager and said, look, the permit for this bridge is the same for a pipe or a wooden bridge. So that's how it was presented to the supervisors in the staff meeting by Joan. So it was more expensive. Well, we didn't have a price on a wooden bridge, but it was an expensive project, but it was robust and would last a long time. So it met the requirements of robust infrastructure. So we agreed to go ahead with it in that meeting. Now, that item was on the staff meeting agenda every week from sometime in June. No, it wasn't June. It's probably in July. I didn't get the, I don't have the schedule handy, but that project was on that schedule for every week, every staff meeting that you might have attended.
That's right.
You didn't say, and you did not say one word about it until now, so some outside individual drew attention to it. So I heard nothing objections. I heard, and I'm still not finished. I heard no objections to this bridge until sometime in February. I'm not sure what triggered that, but that's when all the objections began. But when you change design, it costs money.
You changed design. That's
John, can I comment something, John?
Yeah.
I think, like I tried to say before, it's up to Joan to decide, all right, Jim, you need to clean out culverts this week. And if they need repair, you need to do that. I know that's going to be expensive, but an item like Nancy's talking about, the board at a public meeting agreed to build a wooden bridge at Bamshire. Now, that didn't work because to move those big poles, Jim gave us a quote of like, it was ridiculous. It's going to cost you $100,000 or something. So, okay, we can't do what we voted we wanted to do. So when that changes and now we're getting into a culvert design, that should have came back to a board meeting so the public could be involved, because at staff meetings, the public don't know what we're doing with their money. So I think that was a major shift in what we voted we were going to do. So items like that, I think items like that need to come before the board and everybody decides and the public can have input if they want it. And then we move on. It turns out that we can't do the culvert. The DEP said no. We didn't know that at the time. I would hope LTL would have, but they don't. But they're the kind of things I think should not stay in a staff meeting, no matter if every supervisor one by one got to the staff meeting. It's something that needs to come before a public meeting. That was a major change in what was originally approved. So, but like culvert cleaning and pothole fixing and all that, no, it's going to be expensive work, but Joan decides that and she puts it before us at the staff meeting. I'm fine with that.
Mary, can you refresh my memory and tell me what board meeting we discussed the wooden bridge back in 2019? I don't recall that meeting.
I don't know, because I wasn't a supervisor till January.
Right. I don't think we discussed it.
I don't think it ever went to a board meeting.
I don't think it was ever in a board meeting.
So you guys have never, you guys developed a project and paid for it without ever having a public meeting?
Yes.
Oh,
Like
I
this is an
assume- I
this is an
assumed-
infrastructure project.
Yeah,
I'm shocked that you guys would allow yourselves to make that kind of a decision,
yeah.
spend $11,000 on an infrastructure project and never bring it into a public meeting for a board of supervisors vote.
I assumed that was done.
And to say that, oh, well, it was hidden or it was on a staff meeting and nobody objected. Well, if nobody objected, that's on them as well, because that is not a decision that can be made. Like, we're not authorized to make that kind of project decision.
No.
All 5 supervisors on and off over the period of time, starting probably when that thing showed up in maybe August or so, saw that item every week. So everybody had an opportunity.
So everyone is culpable.
No,
Everybody on that board is culpable from
nobody commented on it at all through all of last year. And then
Yeah.
the last 2 months, it didn't show up until sometime in February.
That's what I'm saying, is that everybody involved is culpable on allowing this kind of no one gave anybody the authority, right? This is our power comes from the board. These 5 people have to agree and vote, right? You can't just say, well, building a bridge will be more convenient if we just stick it in a staff meeting or make a decision in an executive committee. Our power comes from the board. And just because all 5 members decided individually in a staff meeting not to bring this major project to the board doesn't make it okay or make it less against
All 5
township
supervisors agreed to do it that way, then it was an agreement.
It was-
public meetings. Well, hold on. What public meeting did all the board of supervisors agree that it was okay to make decisions 2 at a time in a staff meeting?
We don't make.
At some point, you have to make a
every
public decision.
David, we don't make every infrastructure decision in a board meeting. You just can't do it.
For capital projects, you certainly do.
We've started off as I wish we could do maybe we should do this at a meeting, because this might be a topic worth of lessons learned. This story, I remember being at the staff, it started off as a very small project. Something, just to fix an issue that was, as I think Paul described it, or Nancy described it, a safety issue at the park. And it seems like it's ballooned over time. And I just make my wife say, I agree. Where it's at right now, it should have come to a board meeting. I think as it blossomed into $5,000 worth of engineering just to come up with the concept, and another $5,000 to, put a permit in and all. So if I have to do a mea culpa, I'll do a mea culpa on that one. But it started off as, if I remember, relatively simple project that just seemed to grow. And as a lessons learned, and I think those are things that should come to the board. I agree that, but I don't, as Mary was saying, I don't think cleaning out a culvert or filling a pothole, or maybe there's some hardening of some road edges that we're having, or cutting or mowing some grass. And those projects can cost some money. I think those are things that we just got to do. It's just.
I think it's a really good conversation. It's painful, but it's really good, because I think going forward, it'll help us align on what should and shouldn't be agreed to at staff meetings. And right, we can all say, former boards, we can all say we're guilty of this or that, but this is a fresh start, and let's do it right. And so I don't know, Joan, what more guidance you need, but you can certainly see that there are rules that we need to follow. And so where it comes to capital projects or investments outside of maybe agreed contracts, we have to take those to board meetings.
Okay, and I do agree that this bridge project did get out of hand. It originally started, everybody said we need a bridge at Bannockshire. And I know John met with Paul and they came up with a wooden design. And then the next step in that would be for the survey that had to be done so that the permit could be submitted.
Yeah.
We ended up with what, $4,700 worth of expenses for that. And at that point in time, like Donna said, maybe we should have stopped and said, hey, talk about it with everyone. But that was what we needed to do to get to the point where we could submit a permit. And then, yes, the design changed because the cost we were given to build the wooden bridge using the cement blocks that we thought we would use for supports, it was around $24,000, I think, because machinery needed for that. And that was a lot of money. So then when Pete said, hey, why don't you do a culvert pipe? And Jim said, well, I can do that for less money. And it would have saved us money. And again, it would have been a project that the board would have to vote on to spend $16,000, even if we did the culvert pipe. That's not something you just go ahead and do.
Well, I don't think there were plans for that. And I will say that when you come into a staff meeting, you know, I spent most of last year in the hospital. So to come into a staff meeting on a Wednesday afternoon from 1 to 2 and to be prepared to, you know, think that it's my decision, you know, I'm the one deciding to spend $16,000. It's not appropriate. It's not appropriate to put it on those two people. It really isn't.
Well, if I can make a suggestion, what we can do, in the past, Jim has brought in like estimates for work that needed to be done. And you saw them the same time we saw some of them. I mean, I knew there was a problem, but so maybe we could say that, you know, for him to continue like that, he needs to submit them a week ahead of time or something so that they can go out to everybody and, you know, this is the problem and this is the cost to fix
Yeah, and
it.
if it's not an emergency. Yeah.
Okay.
Painful, but that's how.
Hey, we got to do it. We have to tighten up our ship. That's all, you know?
Well, can we end on something positive?
Sure. Can I take the next one?
Sure.
Yours, Mary.
Okay. All right. We have 2 winners of the Thank Our First Responders Coloring Contest. And thank you, Jeff, for setting that up. It was a wonderful idea. These talented ladies, they're the nieces of a Kemblesville resident. Thank you to them for everyone who participated. The girls will be receiving a gift card in the near future. And once we get their permission, we'll post their pictures with their winning drawings on the website and Facebook.
These are both of them together.
Oh, good.
It's hard to show you, but
Yeah, that's wonderful.
That's nice.
Nice.
How old are these girls, Joan? Do you know?
they're teenagers.
Teenagers, okay.
Yeah, I was surprised we didn't get more from like the younger kids who were home. Dave doing nothing.
Well, this is something new, so maybe going forward,
That's
we'll
right.
get more participation from the youngins.
And I do want to shout out to Jeff because I think the Franklin Township Facebook page has gotten, you know, he posts a lot of really nice things. And I think people are starting to notice that.
Yep.
I think we're all learning a little bit more to use social media differently than we have.
Yes, yes.
And he's doing a good job.
Yeah.
Hero.
Okay.
Okay, public comment. Do we have any public left? And would you like to make any comments?
No.
You see anything, Jeff?
I'm good.
Okay.
We're good.
We are going to adjourn the meeting at 9:14 p.m.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody. Thanks for
All
hanging in
righty.
there.